Okay, I think we are on time. Okay, again, good morning and good afternoon, depends on where you are joining from. Thank you for your time joining today webinar by Veeam. My name is Chiki Lo. You can call me CK. I'm the system engineer from Veeam. Okay, the product which I'm going to present today are this totally of three product. Veeam Backup for AWS version 5. So Veeam Backup for Azure version 4, and finally Veeam Backup for Google version 3. So throughout this webinar, I'm going to show you what are the new things that come with the latest versions. So before I proceed into the product presentation, let's move on to some house rules. Okay, upon entry into this webinar, all of you has been muted. So not to worry, if you have any question throughout my presentation, please feel free to utilize the Q&A chat box, and I will address all those questions at the end of the sessions. Also for your information, this webinar is being recorded, and you will be receiving the recording and the slide of it once you log into the Pro Portal Partner. You should be receiving an email instruction to teach you how do you get the recording after a few days after this webinar. So not to worry about that. Just wait for the email. Okay, let's move on to the today presentation. Okay, before I go moving into the actual products, Veeam has done some survey, and we got to know that there's no surprise that the adoption of the cloud continues. If we look at these two set of data from our CPTR, you will see that more than half of the organization are using the public cloud for their production workload. What is really interesting is that as the cloud evolved to be more performing and more secure, almost half of the organization are running their high priority between tier 1 or tier 0 production workload there as well. And expected, the cloud as a DR target is favorable as organizations do not have to manage a secondary site, or then this will save in terms of the hardware cost as well. Okay, moving to the right side of 85% of organizations have been running production workload in the cloud for more than 12 months. Likely were due to the pandemic, but none of the less this trend will continue as well, as you can see from the above chart as well. Okay, this is again another survey has been performed by Veeam to see the serverless adoption by cloud provider. As you can see, AWS is still the majority preferred by all those organizations. But what really interesting is as organizations execute cloud first strategy, the traditional way of building an application in the way we do on-premise that are tightly coupled is now being outspaced by the serverless design. For example, microservices, containerized workloads function as a service that are all loosened, coupled, and heavily API driven. So a question for anyone who are using cloud. Irrespective of how we are adopting the cloud, the data, whether it is in a virtual machine, database, file server, or object storage, is always our own responsibility. And if we value it as we should, it need to be backed up as well. This is where Veeam come into the pictures. So the first product that we have for the public cloud product is Veeam Backup for AWS. So what are the services supported by Veeam when it comes to the AWS platform? So Veeam have developed a solution for AWS to not just protect server-based workload like the Amazon EC2 and the attached EBS volume, but also for platform as a service hosted data like Amazon Relational Database Services and Electric Files Services. So for relation database services, as you can see, we support MariaDB, MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, and SQL Server as well. And of course, we will continue to support and deepen our use of Amazon S3 and all the tier associated to help you meet your retention, compliance, and cloud spend goals. For software as a service, as you know seen on the screen, we support Amazon S3 storage and Amazon S3 Glacier as well. So moving to our topic for today, as for the first product, as you can see, Veeam Backup for AWS version 5. So that's what the new thing that we support is the new services, which is the RDS services, Amazon Aurora Backup. So natively protect Aurora database, and these features enable the flexible policy-based scheduling just like the other RDS services and lightning fast recovery at exact point in time, just in seconds. So with the version 5, we added in another new RDS services. So there are total 6 RDS services that we can support with Veeam Backup for AWS now. Okay, the next enhancement is the EFS indexing. So with the version 5, you can achieve even quicker and easier restore of the Amazon EFS file folder through the enhanced file tracking of the file system backup as well. So this is for helping up in when you come to the recovery, it will be faster. Okay, another new thing when it comes to version 5 is the config backup and restore. Previously, we are not able to backup the configuration. So if your Veeam backup for AWS appliances or the console got corrupted or missing or something wrong, you will have to recreate all the job, all those policy once again. But with the Veeam backup for version AWS version 5, we are able to create a backup for the configuration. So which is ideal for redeploying from scratch and also for migration if you were to migrate into somewhere else between AWS for testing and many more. Okay, apart from that, there are others notable enhancements. For example, is if you log in into a console of the Veeam backup for AWS version 5, you will see there are some changes into the user interface. You were able to view the overview of session, policy details, and what are the workload. And there are some more details which I will go through with you later on. Another enhancement, which is the worker redesign. So you are able to configure the worker according to the specific hardware that you want to perform the backup and archive its processes on the region that you want as well. Previously, you are not able to do this in the Veeam backup for AWS on the worker side. It's all managed by automatically, but now you can configure it yourself. And with another enhancement is that it's now possible to perform multi restore for the Amazon RDS or Amazon EFS instance. Previously, you can only perform once at a time. So with this, you can do multiple at a time. So those are the new features on for Veeam Backup for AWS version 5. So now let's move on to the Veeam Backup for Azure. Okay, as you know, Veeam Backup for Azure is actually our version behind Veeam Backup for AWS. So whatever those services supported by Veeam for Azure will be lesser. So in terms of the infrastructure as a service, Veeam only support the Azure virtual machine. And the platform as a service, we support uh, the Azure SQL and the Azure files. As for the storage, or we support the blob storage and also the Azure archive. Okay, the Veeam backup for Azure version 4, we are able to backup the Azure files natively and policy-based protection, including the file level indexing. This is for the quick, easy, and recovery of any restore point in time for those Azure files. Same goes to the AWS as well. With Veeam Backup for Azure version 4, we are able to back up the configuration and you can restore it as well. So it's easy for you to migrate if you want to migrate the console to somewhere else. You do not need to, or you want to build another Veeam Backup for Azure console, you do not need to redeploy from the scratch. You can just perform the migrate and the testing as well. Okay, as well, I think as you notice, is follow the AWS as well for Veeam Backup for Azure version 4. there will be some redesign of the overview as well. So the dashboard, you will see much more information. Actually, the product is almost similar, just the services that we are able to support might be different. So with version 4 of Azure, you were able to see the overview dashboard just like the AWS session, the policy detail, which I will show it to you later on as well. And again, the worker redesign, you can redesign the worker according to your configurations or your needs in order to restore the cost and also for improving the performance. So another new features when it comes to Veeam Backup for Azure version 4 is that you can perform for health check for the instances based on your needs. And this is directly run from the policy wizard where you configure the backup. And the final enhancement is the private network deployment. You can deploy the between network with no public access to an endpoint and storage account when it's required. So this is the enhancement or the new features when it comes to the Veeam Backup for Azure version 4. Okay, let's move on to the next product, which is the Veeam Backup for Google. Veeam Backup for Google is currently on version 3. So as I mentioned, so the services that you can see will be lesser if you compare with Azure and AWS. So in terms of the infrastructure as a service, we only cover the compute engine, which is a virtual machine in Google, and the cloud storage we only cover MySQL, and for storage, we have the cloud storage, which really is standard and archive storage for Google. So the new thing when it comes with version 3 of Veeam Backup for Google is that we're able to back up the cloud SQL MySQL database. So this is again using the flexible policy-based scheduling and lightning fast recovery to an endpoint just in time. So just like this is just one version behind Azure. So this is what we can protect for now. Okay, another enhancement when it comes to version 3 for Google is that we have the rollback uh, RBAC, roll back access control as well. So you can delegate the data protection to specific permission to user to maximize the operational efficiency while ensure the greater security while using this backup console. Same thing as well when it comes to config backup, we do have this new features for Veeam Backup for Google as well, where you can backup the configuration just like the Veeam Backup for Azure and Veeam Backup for AWS as well. And some other features, because it's a similar product, almost similar interface by Veeam, so you will see all those features will be almost similar. So for Veeam Backup for Google as well, we have some enhancement on the user interface on the dashboard, where you will see more information during the dashboard once you log in. And again, I will show it to you during the demo later on. And for the worker redesign, you were able to design the worker for, it depends on your usage for the performance and cost, and as well as the health check. You can perform the health check for the instance, which is also a policy based when you perform the backup using the Veeam Backup for Google. Okay, so those are the new features we come with the Veeam Backup for AWS version 5, Veeam Backup for Azure version 4, and Veeam Backup for Google version 3. Let's move on to the demo to see the product. But before I move into the actual product, I just like to let you all know that Veeam actually have a separate product demo for each and individual of this product. So this webinar is just to show you what are the new features, and that's why I'll not go into a very deep on each and every product. So if you want to know more about each and every product of this provided by Veeam, you might need to subscribe to another webinar which is only specific for certain products. Okay, let's hold on. Let me just switch my screen. Okay, just to go through a brief, how do we deploy Veeam Backup for AWS, Veeam Backup for Azure, or Veeam Backup for Google? It's just the same. You just go to the platform. If, for example, I'll just show you on the AWS, it will be similar. You go to the marketplace, you search for Veeam, then you will see that Veeam Backup for AWS free trial and bring your own license. So you click on it, continue to subscribe, then you fill in some of the configuration item. Once you have done, you can move back to, you have done that, you can go back to the AWS console, EC2. You will be seeing your appliance here. Definitely you will have to power on for the first time. So when you power on, you will see the public IP address. So you copy the public IP address, paste the public IP address here. On the first time, you will need to create your credential and password, because I already done that. So I'll just put in my credential and the password. As I mentioned, the three product is almost similar, just the number of services that we product is different according to the platform. So this is a Veeam Backup for Azure. You can see this is a Veeam Backup for Google Cloud. And this is a Veeam Backup for AWS. So you'll see almost similar. I'll just log in to show it to you. This is AWS. Okay, with the latest version, you will see this is the enhancement to the dashboard, where you can see what are the sessions that has been launched for the first 24 hours, and what are the workload that's been protected, and what are the policies, the sizing, bottleneck, and the storage use, and if you have any backup and storage. Let's go to the Google. You'll see almost similar stuff. You can see this is for Google. You'll see the similar again. What are the policy? What are the workload? Snapshot, storage usage, and there's bottleneck if any. Let's try for Azure. Oh, yep, this is the first screen for Azure as well. So you will see the thing. So almost similar thing you can see here. So not much different, you'll be familiarized. But for this demo, I will just show you using the Veeam Backup for AWS. So once you are logged in, you go to the configuration. As usual, the IAM role have be defined for you. So we will have a default backup restore role. So if you have one more, you can add in more roles as per your needs. Then the second thing is you will need to configure a repository. So on the AWS console, you will need to create a bucket for it, which we will use. So you will need to configure this first before you go to the Veeam Backup console. I can show it to you here. So I call this a bucket name with the default permission I have, and I'm using the existing. This is the bucket location, the existing folder I have. If you want, you can check the permission. The same thing that you can do on the others two product as well. It's exactly the same thing. So all permission is okay. Encryption, if you want to enable the encryption for this repository, and this is the config for it. It's a standard one. And finish. That way I get my bucket here. So when it comes to the worker, I will need to configure the worker as well. I can add in for which region, for example, Singapore. So this is where in version 5, you can this is the default worker configuration that you run. So if you want, you can change it as well. If you do not, you can let it be. And the same thing also when it comes to the archiving operation, what are the worker size of you? So all these will result in the cost charged by AWS. So this is the place where you can change the size of it if you want. That's why you can reconfigure the size. By default, it has been set for you, but you can change that if you want. And finish. So I got the default worker. As mentioned, you can change the worker. This is what the new features in version 5 for it. So one has been done for this one. We can exit. Then we can go for the policy. So this is the place where you create the backup job or the policy for it. So EC2 is where you back up your EC2 instances on AWS. RDS is where you back up your relational database. For version 5, we support up to 6 relational database, as I mentioned, Aurora, MySQL. There are some that I mentioned earlier. And then we have the configuration backup for it, which is the configuration backup nearly. Then this is the EFS backup, which I do not have an example for me now. So I'll just show you the EC2, which I have created the policy. I can show it to you. I edit this policy. I call it a S6 policy. Then you choose the region where you want where the instance that you want to backup are located. For my case, it's in Singapore. And then you can choose what are the resources that you want to protect. For me, these are the 2 instances which I protect. And then if there's an application awareness, you can enable the application, and there's some scripting. And if you want the snapshot to replicate to other region, you can use so. Then you enable the backup. You choose the repository which you have been created. And if you want to archive it, you have to create the archive repository first, which I do not have it yet. If you choose it, then you have to select which are the repository that you want to archive, or just cancel it off. And then you select the schedule. Just the same as the other, as I mentioned, you can choose when do you want the snapshot to happen. You can choose to every hour to have the snapshot. For example, I'll just one snapshot and one backup, which is happen on this time. So 8 o'clock daily, the snapshot will happen, then followed by the backup. Then the retention, you can choose how long do you want to keep 24 snapshot, and how long you want to keep the backup, keep for 14 days. Just for example, apply. So this is my daily schedule. If you want a weekly schedule or monthly schedule, yearly schedule, still the same. If you want to use tag, it's up to you. This is a general configuration that you will retry every 3 times. Okay, this is where you enable your health check. This is a new feature which is in version 5. If you want, you can enable the health check. When do you want the health check to run? Not you just off it. Okay, let's say if I enable the health check every month, first Sunday of every month, he will run the health check on my instance. Then next, as usual, you will see the cost. You'll calculate the estimate cost for you in order to back up the 2 instances. So this is estimate about $4 US dollar per month for the backup and the snapshot. So I'll just cancel off this one because I already have it done. So then you will see the here. So if I go to the configuration, another thing is setting. So this is again the new features, which cost I have already attached it to my on-prem, or else you will see this as a configuration backup where you back up all this configuration. What are the worker, what are the repository, and what are the policy that you have been set. You're able to back it up here. Because this has been linked back to my on-prem VBR server. That's why I have no control over here, because it's all already backup using to the on-prem. But if you have not integrate to the on-prem, you will be able to configure the configuration backup here as well. And you can set the email notification as well. And these are the licensing you will see. Yeah, because I integrated to the on-prem VBR, so the license is also managed by the VBR as well, or exit. So this is the new features of Veeam Backup for AWS version 5. If you go to Google as well, I go configuration and I go to workers, filing. Yeah, you can configure the worker as well. It's just same like the AWS. And the same thing as well, I will need to go to the general and I will have the configuration backup here as well. But again, this has been integrated with the Veeam Backup and replication. That's why you were not able to see the option here. And final one, which is the Veeam Backup for Azure, you can see, if I go to the configuration, go to the workers, profiles, and the instance. So, because this is the network. So the worker as well, you can add. For example, I just choose one from South. Okay, I just choose East Asia. I will net those network which I do not have the network ready for that. Private network deployment. Okay, then again, you see just now Veeam Backup for version 4, you have this option. You can enable it for the private networking deployment. So this is again a new features. And if you want to configure that this is the worker, let's see. Next. This is the networking for it. Filing. Yeah. This is the way where you want to change the worker. You can configure it as well. Okay. What are the worker size that you want? What are the minimum worker that you want? What are the maximum that you want in order for the backup? So you have the simple, so you have the advanced one where you can configure the worker up to your needs or the cost that you want. So these are the features in version 4 for Veeam Backup for Azure. Okay, one more new features as I show you, same thing as well when it comes to the setting, then the configuration backup. There. We have not integrated together with the on-prem. That's where you can see what do you want to backup. You can enable it, backup to where, when do you want this configuration backup. So all those worker repository and the account and the jobs all will be backup into here as per your configuration. It can be also snapshot based as well. So the configuration backup can be snapshot, also can be backup as well in this Veeam Backup for version 4. And exit the configuration. That's it. So this is similar thing. So I think that's all which I want to demo to show to you for these 3 new product. So what are the features? Let me move on back to the slide. Okay, so now if you need to know more about each product, you can go to Linkbud. For Veeam Backup for AWS or Azure or even Google, there are some free edition where you can download or you can deploy and use. It's free. You can use for free up to 10 instances to be backup. As I mentioned that for AWS, you can go to the marketplace to find it. The same goes to Azure and go to Google as well. So you can do it there. Just go to the marketplace there, or you can try to click on the link once you got the slide, and you can read more information about this. And also, we do have another promotion. So Veeam has been the leader for 2022 again. So if you want to put in some survey after your testing, then you please feel so you can scan the QR code, and then you will receive a 25 local currency equivalent gift card from email as from G2 as well. So if you write a review, then you will receive the reward. Another thing is, please feel free to complete the survey once you receive it at the end of the webinar. This will be very helpful for us. Okay, I think that's it for today. Let's move on to the question. If there's any questions throughout my presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A. I will try to address it. If there's any so far, I don't see any question at the moment. Maybe let's give another minute to see if anyone have any questions regarding the new features or regarding these three products. Okay, I see one question coming in. Just give me a moment. Does Veeam Backup for Azure also support replication similar to AWS? Okay, for the replication, we are only each different product is different. We are only to replicate to different region which is on the same platform. For example, if you have one instance on Azure on the Singapore region, we can replicate that to another different region, let's say in US region. But you cannot replicate on a cross platform. So you cannot replicate instance on Azure to AWS. That's not possible. Okay, let's see. Another, does Veeam Backup for Azure support multiple Azure blob, different Azure as target? Yes, you can. You just because creating the storage is on the Azure end. You just create that, and then when you come to backup, you just select the repository or the blob storage we have been created in Azure. Then you will be able to back up to that as well. Thank you, Divine, for the question. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, if there's no questions, thank you for your time, everyone. I hope you have a nice day and learn some beneficial information about Veeam on this. So hope to see you again on the next webinar by Veeam. Okay, I think there's a question coming in. Let me just try to answer that. Can this backup be restored locally or on-prem? Yes. Well, if you are using any of these Veeam Backup for Azure, Veeam Backup for AWS, or Veeam Backup for AWS to back up your instance on those public cloud, it can be restored back to your on-prem, but you will need to integrate together with our on-prem solution, Veeam Backup and Replication. Then you can restore it back to on-prem. But if you integrate it to Veeam Backup and Replication on-prem, then you can restore or not only back to on-prem, you can restore it back to other cloud as well. For example, if you backup using Veeam Backup for AWS, you integrate with on-prem, you can restore back to on-prem the instances on AWS, or you want to restore the instance into Azure VM, that's possible as well. That's why we call it cloud mobility, but you need to integrate together with a VBR on-prem first. Okay, thank you for the time. Thank you, everyone. Hope to all see you again in the next webinar. Do feel free to remember to complete the survey. Yeah?